There's a pretty detailed FSD beta version 12.1 update write-up. He has a Model Y with hardware 3. He says the car feels a lot more human-like and his wife could not tell whether he was driving or the car was driving itself. It also does some very human-like behaviors. For example, imagine driving on a 2-lane highway and you are driving on the left side because you are going faster than everyone, but then a car approaches you from behind that's going even faster. The car then, he said, changed the lane to the right lane, and then after that car from behind passed him, then the car went back on the left lane. Speed control is much smoother and appears to adjust itself smoothly with the surrounding traffic flow. FSD version 12 is more patient and assertive during lane-changing maneuvers. There's no more middle-of-the-change hesitation, changing mind in the middle of a lane change, which is really annoying. And if you have FSD on your car, you definitely know what neighborhood laneless road snaking is. It's when the car does this when it really shouldn't. It's very common in neighborhoods where there are single lane roads wide enough to accommodate roadside parking, or simply single lanes that gradually diverge into more lanes, or vice versa. And that's finally gone with version 12. As we saw from the leaked version 12.1 video, the car does handle bumps much better. He says handling of the bumps is excellent, which is absolutely not the case with FSD version 11. One issue though that he has with FSD version 12 is stopping at stop signs fully and completely. He says that the way it does it right now, people behind you are gonna start maybe even honking at you, or certainly at least get very annoyed with you. But I don't think that's a defect of FSD version 12. This is a result of silly regulation. The main thing that he has to do himself the most is adjusting speed. For example, when you come off the highway or before you go onto the highway, seems like you might want to change the speed limits yourself a lot. And then he says that this current version is trained mostly in California where the weather is good. So I think what he's trying to say, if the weather is not good, it doesn't really work well right now. And that's because it doesn't have much data from these other places. A big thanks goes to Tony for sharing this post with all of us. More and more people are getting FSD version 12 now, and this seems to be a pretty common first reaction. Experience version 12 for the first time, and I am mind blown. It feels very human-like. Acceleration and braking as smooth as a Hermes scarf. Previous versions were good, but always felt robotic. This is just incredibly natural. Hats off to the Autopilot team. You know, one big issue that I have with using FSD currently, version 11, when I have passengers in my vehicle, is it just does sometimes. It just doesn't feel like it's a human driving, and then I get stared at. So even if I'm going through an area that I know FSD will handle well, occasionally I still turn it off because I do not want any sudden steering wheel movements that will freak out any of my passengers. But with FSD version 12, that does not seem to be a problem at all anymore. So just that one single improvement is going to allow me to start using FSD a lot more often. Because another thing that I assume is different about this version, because it's so human-like, when it does phantom brake or does something really silly, it will probably do it more in a human-like way instead of doing it suddenly, which should make takeovers much smoother. When I have passengers in my vehicle, I am always on the edge thinking, oh, okay, is FSD gonna do something really silly at any moment now? These takeovers are often not very smooth. So with just these two changes, FSD should be a lot more useful to most people.